Happy New Year to everyone. This is the regularly scheduled Board of Public Works meeting for this evening. Schedule will start at 5:30 p.m. So I'm going to turn it over to what is officially the Vice President of the Board of Public Works for the time being, Kyla Cox-Dickert.
Well, I'm the secretary at this point, so yes, but I will go ahead and move forward on our regular meeting. Call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Public Works. This is Tuesday, January 4th of 2022. I think that's the first time I've said 2022 this year. So Happy New Year, everyone. First up, we have messages from board members. Do we have any messages from the board?
Yes, I would like to wish everyone a happy and healthy New Year. The Omicron virus is surging, and so be very safe, careful, and stay healthy.
All right, thank you, Beth. Next up, we have petitions and remonstrances. This is the time during our meeting for public comment about items that are not on the agenda this evening. So if we have anyone who would like to make a public comment about something not on the agenda, you're welcome to raise your hand or put a note in the chat. I do see we have a raised hand, Adam.
Yep. All right. We got Greg Alexander here. I'll go ahead. I think April, can you unmute Greg Alexander, please? I'm having some trouble with my mouse.
Awesome, thanks.
There we go.
Yeah, my name is Greg Alexander. I just wanted to draw your attention to some progress on two different projects where you guys had approved pedestrian sidewalk closures and walkarounds and stuff like that. One, I was just there like an hour ago. It's called The Standard. It used to be Brownstone Terrace at like 14th and Dunn all the way to Walnut. And it had this complicated plan with phases of construction leading up to phase 4B, the final phase, where they would close all of 14th Street and the sidewalk on the west side of Dunn with signs and detours and everything. And phase 4B ended on November 25th. As far as I know, that went off mostly without a hitch. And at that time, the signs went away. And after that date, they're supposed to enter into what they call a general construction phase, which will last all the way to August of 2023. And they didn't provide any sort of MOT, maintenance of traffic plan for that general construction phase. But it says the sidewalks on 14th Street would be closed and that there would be appropriate signage. And I can confirm that the sidewalk on 14th Street is closed, but there's no signage whatsoever. Just a fence simply crosses over the sidewalk. And then there's no mention of closing the sidewalk on Dunn during the general construction phase, but it is also blocked by a fence, and there's no signage there either. So that plan doesn't seem to, as near as I can tell, represent the reality on the ground at this point in time, and hasn't since November 25th of last year. And the other one is on the other side of town at 7th and what is it called? P. Ellis about, and that's at Scannell Properties. It's called Curry Urban when it was before the planning department. And it's a really awful MOT plan. It calls for closing the 7th Street side path. That's part of the priority bike and pedestrian network in the city's transportation plan. Like that should have been done only as a last resort, but it was simply, they agreed to close it for well into 2023. Just a ridiculous plan. But it was contingent on the installation of 2 new mid-block pedestrian crossings to facilitate a detour. And the MOT plan there was very, very detailed. It said that they would have 3 components to the pedestrian crossing. They'd have curb ramps and a sign telling pedestrians to use the other side. And then, and this is the important part in my mind, signs telling drivers to yield to pedestrians. You know, slow down cars, especially on Pete Ellis, such a high-speed road. And the curb ramps and the pedestrian-facing signs were installed. But I was there 2 weeks ago, so I don't know what's happened since. But the signs for the drivers were missing. At the east end of the project, they had the zebra stripes, but they didn't have the signs that were supposed to be on poles. And at the west end of the project, they didn't have the zebra stripes or the signs on poles. They didn't have either of them. They just didn't do it. But they had already destroyed the sidewalk. They had already fenced it off and destroyed the sidewalk, the side path there. And so for all I know, maybe they've finished the crosswalks in those 2 weeks, but 2 weeks ago, they weren't in compliance. And I guess, you know, what can you do when staff brings a plan to you that you know isn't going to be followed through, which is the majority of plans? I don't know what you can do, but if you approve something that doesn't wind up representing reality, then you're doing a disservice to pedestrians and to people who use the facilities that you're supposed to be overseeing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. And actually, if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind taking a moment to address both those projects. And Mr. Alexander, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised with the Pete Ellis. I do believe they did get those signs up. Staff has been regularly in conversation with the team there, the developers and the construction folks. I believe they were issued fines for not being in compliance with their maintenance of traffic plan. So, that is one thing we can do. Sometimes those fines aren't heavy enough to really impact the cost of business, but at the same time, we absolutely did issue some fines in that instance. And then with the standard project, we have been over the course of the last month, they've been issued fines as well for not being in compliance with their MOT plan. And staff has been regularly visiting that site, seeking compliance. I believe they were out there again today. And I believe they made note of both of the sidewalk closures without signage that Mr. Alexander had just brought to our attention. So those are two projects that we're both keenly aware of, and the engineering team, the inspectors over there are keenly aware of the importance of following up, inspecting, being on site regularly. So for once, I'm happy to report we've got some good news for Mr. Alexander in that regard. So thank you.
Adam, also, he mentioned that the traffic was fast speeding on Pete Ellis. That road is closed now.
Yeah, and they're in that phase of they're in the phase of the accelerated. This isn't an official term or anything, but they did the full closure so that we could accelerate the instead of being a 3-month lane at a time closure, we did the winter break here, full closure. So I think I'll have to double check tomorrow in our permits meeting, but they're scheduled to get that back open, I think by the end of the week or so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for those updates, Adam, and thank you, Mr. Alexander, for your comments. And this will be something I think probably for our next work session, this will be a good update since there are some things pending with that standard development and just making sure all of that is, as expected at that point in time as well. Are there other public comments that are not related to items on the agenda this evening? If so, you can use the raised hand function or you can add a comment in the chat.
I am not seeing anything, Kyla.
All right, thank you. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda, we have approval of minutes for December 21st of 2021. We have a contract with Justice Row for repair of the 7th Street underpass mural, renewal of motorized scooter shared use agreement with VO Ride, renewal of motorized scooter share use agreement with Lime, a noise permit for Rally for Life, and approval of payroll. Do we have any public comment on anything within the consent agenda? If so, you can use raised hand function or put a note in the chat. I do see a raised hand.
Here we go. Yeah. All right, Mr. Alexander.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I'm Greg Alexander again. I don't know if I should raise my objection now or just say I wish the VO Ride scooters would be and the other scooters would be taken out of the consent agenda because we were told that when the scooters were approved, about a year or two ago at the council, that it would be a continuing process to evaluate, and a lot of promises made at that time weren't kept.
All right, thank you, Greg.
Are there other public comments on the consent agenda items? All right, I don't see Any other comments?
I don't see anything in chat. And I don't see any other raised hands.
All right. Do we have any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none from the board. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
And I second. I will call a roll call vote. Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
Kyla Cox Deckard, yes. Motion passes. Next up, we have new business. Under new business, we have public improvements bond estimate for Osage Place Phase. I'm not sure if there was supposed to be a phase number there, honestly.
I think that should be, sorry, this is Emily Herr with engineering. That should be Osage Place Phase 1.
Phase 1. Thank you, Emily.
Yes. Okay, I'm Emily Herr with engineering. This is to approve public improvements bond estimate for Osage Place Phase 1. This project, named Osage Place, has started installing streets, sidewalks, utilities, and other public improvements under a grading permit, which will all become public once accepted by the city. The staff from engineering and CBU have regularly inspected the installed public improvements as they're being built to ensure that they are being installed to city standards. A public improvements bond is required to cover the installation of public improvements and be not less than 125% of the approved estimate of the total improvement construction cost of the project. And the Board of Public Works approves the bond estimate for these public improvements. And if approved, the bond will be secured by the petitioner. The bond estimate was reviewed and found to be acceptable by city staff. A performance bond estimate for $981,394 for Osage Place Phase 1 has been provided for board approval. And I'm happy to answer questions, and Katie Stein with Smith Design Group is also on the call to answer questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
I have no questions.
Just following up on our earlier conversation, our work session just took place about 2 hours ago at most. Is there any additional information about the walking path project?
Yes, so thank you for highlighting that. The petitioner will also be making a $40,000 contribution to a project to construct a multi-use path along an east-west electric line corridor that runs along the north side of the site and will connect Weimer Road to Rogers. I have followed up with some staff and am waiting for some additional details to determine if it will be covered and done through parks or if it would be bid out as another city project. So I will have that information. Unfortunately, I don't have it just yet tonight, but I will hopefully have that soon.
That's fine. Thanks for checking in on that. I was just curious about the overall scope of that particular project since it came up with that with this item today. So I appreciate you following up on that. Any other questions from the board? Any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion from the board?
I move approval of public improvements bond estimate $981,394 for Osage Place Phase 1.
And I second. I will call a roll call vote. Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
Kyla Cox Deckard, yes. Motion passes. Next up under new business, we have public improvements bond estimate for Sudbury Parcel O, Phase 2, Section 4.
Hi, everyone. This is Emily Herr with engineering again. This is to approve a public improvements bond for estimate for Sudbury Parcel O, Phase 2, Section 4. They have started installing the continuation of West Ezekiel Drive and Adam Street Extension. This phase of the project will also include public sidewalks, public side paths, street trees, water, storm, and sanitary infrastructure throughout the site. Similar to the last project, they will be made public once they are built to city standards and accepted by the city. The bond estimate was reviewed and found to be acceptable by city staff. A performance bond estimate for $488,349 has been provided for board approval. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And Katie Stein is also present on this call to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
You mentioned the grading permit, and when will that be done, given?
Yes. So I guess, Katie, would you care to share about the grading permit application timeline?
Oh, I'm trying to get her unmuted. Oh, no, there she is. She's unmuted. Go ahead, Katie.
And we might have difficulty hearing her, but I can weigh in that I do know that Smith Design is working with staff in terms of getting a grading permit application submitted. I don't believe that it has been submitted yet, but it's on the radar. I hope that helps. And Katie, I'm not sure if
Emily,
yes.
can you guys hear me? My microphone was turned off. I apologize for that. I was talking and then I realized you guys couldn't hear me. So yeah, Katie Stein, Smith Design Group, engineers for the Sudbury Parcel O Phase 2, Section 4. And yes, what Emily stated is correct. I think there was some confusion with grading permit application and what it covered. So we do need to apply for a grading permit for the Phase 2 on this. And I have been in contact with Liz Carter and would imagine that we will be submitting that within the next 2 weeks for city review and approval.
Thank you. Other questions from the board on this item? Any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve public improvements bond estimate for Sudbury Parcel O Phase 2, Section 4 for $488,349.
And I second. I will call for a vote. Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
Kyla Cox-Deckard, yes. Motion passes. Next up is staff reports and other business.
Yep, Adam Wason, Public Works Director, once again. Just happy New Year to everybody, and hopefully a 2022 that's getting us on a better path than maybe we were on in 2021 is my hope and wish and dream for everyone. But just want to update the board. We did finish out our leafing season a couple days later than expected. We went into a few days after Christmas. We usually try to have that wrapped up before the Christmas holiday. And so we worked last Monday, Tuesday. We're hitting a couple minor hot spots today that I knew of. So leafing for all intents and purposes is complete for 2021. And happy to have that done. Getting all of our equipment ready for any possible winter weather events that could be forthcoming in this winter weather season. I was asking I was trying to figure out if we ever had a year where it didn't snow at least once in November or December. And Joe and I can't remember one. So we're getting ready for that. It looks like we could potentially have some winter weather events later this week. It's definitely going to drop in temperatures, but as always, we'll do everything to keep the traveling public safe and have a couple fun and good for the community projects in line. So one of the things we heard in our city council budget hearings this past year was they'd like to see some type of pilot project for some snow removal from high pedestrian sidewalk areas where snow plows tend to push the snow back up throughout snow events. So we are going to target a few areas on South Walnut as well as the overpasses on I-69. As much as I'd like NDOT to take care of snow removal on the side paths on the bridges there, they make that the local entity's responsibility. So we're going to also target those areas to make sure that we keep those passable for those folks that need to walk from the east to the west or the west to the east over I-69. So that's all I have for you today, and just wish everybody a happy new year.
Thanks, Adam. All right, if there is nothing else, then I will call for adjournment.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Just saw a chat come
Bye.
through.
Oh, dear.
Eric, yes, I believe they all get published, but I'll make sure that some way, shape, or form that will address your comment. Thanks, Eric. All right.
Thanks,
I guess we're
everyone.
adjourned. Yeah, officially
Yes,
adjourned.
we're adjourned.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
evening.